Welcome back everyone. Have you all heard of Craigslist? It's a website where people advertise a service or a product or just an odd job they need doing. A lot of people use it as a quick and easy way to get help or money, but like most things on the internet, it can also throw up some pretty creepy stories. Take this as a warning or just something interesting to hear about. My name is Danny Burke and this is the top 10 shocking Craigslist stories. Don't forget guys, we have a Patreon as well, so if you want to support us and receive exclusive content and prizes for your generosity, the link is in the description box below. Alright, starting off at number 10 now, we have the Tulsa murders. On January 2nd, 2016, someone posted an ad on Craigslist that was incredibly creepy. It thanked the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma for letting them have their first kill. They confessed they were nervous, but that it would not be their last kill and they were already planning their next target. It sparked a lot of panic that killers were using Craigslist to lure and kill their victims, and in the case of this person, even brag about it afterwards. Alright, at the number 9 spot now, we have Anthony Curcio. In 2008, this man's businesses were failing and his drug habits were spiraling out of control, so he decided to rob a bank. After spending months meticulously planning the heist, he went onto Craigslist and placed an ad. It was for 15 to 20 workers to help clean up the area around the bank for money. They were told to wear jeans, a blue shirt, work shoes and a yellow safety jacket. On the day of the robbery, Anthony wore exactly the same outfit. He pretended to clean outside of the bank, and then when the security guard brought out the money, he pepper sprayed him and grabbed 2 bags containing more than $400,000. He made his getaway down a nearby river, and when police arrived, they were told to look for a man wearing jeans, a blue shirt, work shoes and a yellow safety jacket. The problem was, there were about 20 men stood around the bank who matched that exact description. They were all very confused and scared. Anthony was eventually caught and served 6 years in prison, but became known as the Craigslist robber. Next up at number 8 now, we have the Catwoman. This story comes from Reddit user Speed Up Slow Down, who said that one day they responded to an ad for a typist job. It was for an old woman who lived on a farm by herself with cats, over 100 cats. She fed them out of barrels, and the Craigslist job would be for someone to fill those barrels with cat food, but the main job was typing as the old woman dictated to her. It would be conversations the woman was having with her dead husband, whose spirit she claimed to be channeling. The book would be called Conversations with Jack, and the typist who got the job wouldn't be paid at first because the woman had spent all of her money on cat food, but they would eventually get some royalties. The storyteller decided to actually take this crazy job because they thought they could write their own book about the experience, but unfortunately they didn't even get the job. A better writer got it. I actually want to read this book and I hope it gets made into a movie one day. Coming at number 7 now, we have Richard Beasley. In 2011, Scott Davis replied to a Craigslist ad that was offering $300 a week to watch over a nice farm. It looked like the job of a lifetime. He applied and was amazed to get an interview because over 100 people had already applied. He got the job and he packed up his whole life to move to the farm. When he got there, his employer, a guy called Jack, came and picked him up. He was a big guy and he sat in the passenger seat while his nephew Brogan drove the car. He gave Scott a nice tour of the farm and they got out at a secluded spot because Jack wanted to retrieve some tools. As they were stood outside the car, Scott heard the click of a gun. He turned around and Jack had a gun pointed at him. It jammed the first time, but the second time it fired and shattered his elbow. Scott ran for his life. He spent hours bleeding out in the woods before stumbling to a house where the owners called the police for him. It turns out that Jack was actually a serial killer called Richard Beasley who had already killed 3 men by luring them through Craigslist. He was sentenced to death and his nephew was given life in prison. Coming at number 6 now, we have Ezekiel Gilbert. On Christmas Eve 2009, this man found a listing on Craigslist for a female escort. 23-year-old Lenora Ivy Frago went to his house and Gilbert paid her $150 for half an hour of her time. The only problem was, he thought sex was part of that deal when it wasn't. He got angry and she ran outside to her driver, a man called Christopher Perkins. Gilbert confronted him and Perkins started driving away, so Gilbert fired a gun at the car 4 times. One of the bullets hit Frago in the spine, paralyzing and eventually killing her. Now, if that sounds insane, then wait till you hear this. Gilbert was acquitted of murder. He walked free. This is because of the law in Texas which says you can use deadly force to prevent robbery at night. Gilbert's lawyers argued that Frago's refusal to have sex while taking his money was robbery at night. This sparked a whole national debate, but it looks like not much has changed. Next up at number 5 now, we have Philip Markoff, also known as the Craigslist killer. Philip Markoff was a former medical student who famously used Craigslist to kill his victims. On April 10, 2009, he robbed a woman at gunpoint in a hotel after he had replied to her exotic ad on Craigslist. 4 days later, on April 14th, he killed Julissa Brisman in her hotel room after she posted a Craigslist ad for massaging services. After attacking another woman, police were finally able to track him down through Facebook, of all things. At first, his fiancée refused to believe that he could ever do something like that, but believed police when shown the evidence. He killed himself in prison on what would have been his 1-year anniversary of his wedding. Alright, at number 4 now, we have the wedding gifts. In 2007, Kitty and Sean from Portland got married, and because they were remodeling their kitchen, they requested gift cards from Home Depot instead of actual gifts. They invited almost 100 people, but at the end of the wedding, when they looked in the basket that should have been full of cards, there were only 3. They didn't want to offend anyone, so they didn't really say anything. Over the next few weeks, their friends started asking them what they were going to buy with the gift cards they got them. That's when they knew something was up. Their suspicion turned to the Reverend who had married them. She was hired from a Craigslist ad. Home Depot confirmed that at least 4 of the cards had been used at a store. Police pulled up its surveillance cameras, and sure enough, there was the Reverend that married them spending their Home Depot cards. I mean, seriously, how stupid do you have to be to think you could get away with that crime? I really hope she wasn't surprised when they arrested her. Coming out number 3 now, we have the ring. In 2010, American Jamie Sanders posted a diamond ring for sale on Craigslist. He was hoping to get at least $1,000 for it. He got a reply, 3 men and a woman showing up to inspect the ring, saying it was a Mother's Day gift for a mother-in-law. It wasn't. This was a robbery. They pulled out a gun and told everyone to get on the floor while they ransacked the entire house. One of the men smacked Jamie's 14-year-old son with the gun. This enraged him so much that he ripped off his restraints and dived at the man. He was then shot 3 times and died in his wife's arms in front of his 3 children. A few days later, California police caught up with them. The group of 4 received sentences ranging from 71 to 100 years in prison. Next up at number 2 now, we have the pedophile. In 2005, Timothy McDara was a column writer for US Weekly and had also spent 15 years writing for the New York Post. At that time, the FBI had created a fake Craigslist ad to catch pedophiles. The ad was offering New York's freshest, youngest girls. McDara messaged them and asked for a 14-year-old girl with a ponytail. The FBI set up a chat room with a 13-year-old girl named Julie, which was really an FBI agent. After 3 months of disturbing conversations, McDara agreed to meet the girl and pay her for sex. I'll give you 10 points for guessing what happened next. Yeah. The FBI arrested him and he received 6 years in prison. And finally at number 1 now, we have the babysitter. In 2007, 19-year-old Michael John Anderson was a budding serial killer who was planning his first murder. He posed as a mother on Craigslist looking for someone to babysit a child the next day. He got a quick response from Catherine Ann Olson, a 24-year-old graduate who was working as a part-time nanny. She arrived at the house to find only Anderson. When she tried to leave, he pulled out his father's gun and shot her dead. He put her body in the back of his car and abandoned it a short distance away. He crushed up her cell phone and wrapped it in a bloody towel before putting that in a trash can. The towel had his name on though, and the evidence quickly led to his arrest and sentencing to life in prison without parole. Well, what do you guys think of those? Some people think that Craigslist needs stricter rules or should even be monitored by the government, while others say that would be a restriction of personal freedom. Which side are you on? Either way, thanks for watching guys. My name is Danny Burke and I will see you all in the next video.